I'm TC. This is MBRR Media, MBRR Podcast, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. Pardon me while I chat away a little bit. Got to give everybody a chance to get the notifications show up. Not that anybody watches the channel much anymore. Even the chicken streams just died. They just kept restricting them. I was lucky if I was getting 200 or so streams, so I thought I'd take a break from the Freedom Flock streams for a while so we could see if maybe we could come at it from a different perspective. Maybe come up with a new name for the stream or something, and fall into the right algorithm. I'm trying to figure out how to make the chicken stream pop a little bit more. Working on a new couple of views. I'm going to be getting some cameras that I can put outside to capture the outside activity of the gals. And I'm not going to go too expensive with those because they'll be outside, and I'm going to come up with a way to shelter them as well so that they're not getting rained on. So all sorts of things I'm working on there to make the Freedom Flock streams a little bit more interesting. So yeah, we'll be working on that. Big shout out to the channel producers, show producers. IMF from over on Subscribestar. He does yeoman's work, I'll tell you that. He is very helpful to what I have going on, and he continues to support me over there on Subscribestar. And a big shout out to all of my channel members, those of you that are still here, still hanging out, still supporting the channel. Really appreciate the fact that you guys have committed to a monthly help. So yeah, it's good. We are heating up for season premiere of Libertarian Lowdown. My first guest on Libertarian Lowdown coming out of the gate is going to be Jeremy Huff. You would know him from the Free State Movement. He is very vocal over on Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, X, all of that. But he is a phenomenal voice for the fight for liberty and a strong voice in New Hampshire for the Free State Movement. So hey, AVA, good to see you. Teresa's here too. Thanks for being here. Say hi if you're watching. Share this out. Hit that like. But yeah, so I'm going to be recording with him for the season premiere, and that'll be coming out a week from this coming Monday. Well, not this coming Monday, but that'll be coming out in a little over a week. Monday's next episode of TC and Friends Monday Night Musings, I am sitting down with the esteemed Pam, who had her own run-ins with Plainview, Minnesota Police Department and Wabasha County Social Services. And you guys have been paying attention to her story, so look forward to hearing your thoughts on the conversation with Pam. We'll be sitting down and getting that show in the can for Monday night. And I'm also in communication with Dan McKnight from Bring Our Troops Home and Defend the Guard. He's going to be coming on to talk a little bit about the Defend the Guard efforts around the country and in preparation for Minnesota's Defend the Guard rally on April 5th. So if you are in Minnesota or anywhere near the Minnesota capital in St. Paul for April 5th, set aside some time on that day so that you can come and listen to some phenomenal speakers, to include bill sponsors in the House and the Senate. We are running up against it in Minnesota. We've got two Republicans that are fighting the legislation. They do not want the legislation to pass because, well, gosh darn it. You're not a Republican if you don't support war. And their entire reason for not supporting it is that Donald Trump's president, and he's not going to send us to war. And so we don't need legislation like this, even though it's the most constitutional piece of legislation you'll ever get a chance to read in your life. Then if you haven't had a chance to read up on Defend the Guard legislation, I would strongly encourage you to go and do that now, because it is phenomenal piece of work that Dan will tell you the story on. He borrowed it from somebody else, and then they have run with it. So yeah, we've got all of that coming up. So Pam on Monday night, we've got Dan McKnight getting ready to come on, Jeremy Kaufman from the Free State Movement over in New Hampshire. Got other interviews, conversations, however you want to say it, in the works. Some really interesting stories. And last but not least for announcements, I have been covering the story of Kennesaw County Deputy Chris Flatten, who was finally charged with driving drunk while on duty and wrecking a squad car. I have all the data, folks. I have it all, thanks to a anonymous source. Video from the State Patrol. I have reports, I have pictures, I have speeds that he was traveling while he was drunk. I have a statement from deputies in Kennesaw County. In particular, I've listened to one piece of audio on that already. Kennesaw County screwed the pooch on this, folks, and this is damning. What we have is damning, and I've got hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of work to do to put this all together, and it's going to be multiple videos for you guys to enjoy getting mad about. So it gives me the opportunity in this situation to give props to the Minnesota State Patrol for actually doing the hard job of holding a fellow thin blue line gang member of theirs accountable. Now, why you know what, let's just, that stuff will be coming out very soon. And like I said, it just takes a lot of work. And for those of you that don't produce content, or for those of you who do really just stream of conscious streaming, where you are, you don't have a script. I don't script anything, but when you are going through data, when you are going through video, when you're going through audio, when you're reading reports, I have a leg up in some respects because I know how police reports read. I know what certain lingo means. I know what the jargon, means. I can, and that's what actually makes it easier, but also takes longer, because then I have to go through and I sometimes have to explain things to people, and I have to make sure I'm accurately translating what's being said and accurately representing it, because it's easy to lose sight of the end goal, which is transparency and accountability, if you're too busy putting your own spin on things. You don't want to come out of the gate and bloviate with your opinion just out of the gate. You want to put the data out there. You want to let people hear it, and then you let them form their own opinions while you're sharing an educated opinion on what's actually happening. So that'll be coming out. And one more time, if you guys want to really help the show, share it out. I love doing Drive Time Dialectics because I love watching people come in, even the hate watchers, and ask questions. I really love the support from people who watch, and comment, and share. If you want to continue to help the channel grow, we are on our way to 4,000 subscribers. If you want to help the channel grow, hit that sub button, hit that channel membership button. As the new seasons kick off, we're going to be throwing up some merchandise for you guys to look at, and we're going to be doing more channel member content for you guys. I think we're going to be doing a stream for channel members either this weekend or next weekend. I don't know which. It kind of depends on how the weather goes, to be honest with you. Lots of things to start looking at doing in Minnesota as weather gets nicer, but isn't 100% where we want it to be yet. So that's where we are with that. I do want to add this, and then we're going to talk about Trump and free speech and Thomas Massie and ethics. When I say that I'm a drama-free channel, I want everybody to understand that what I do is confrontation and conflict, and there's drama that comes with that. But that drama is external to my content. In other words, I am not drama driven. Okay? It's not a judgment. You monetize you monetize your brand, you do you the way you do you with your channel. Whatever works for you, phenomenal. Great. There are people out there who have demonstrated a level of success growing their brand, growing their channel by talking about the drama they have going on in their lives because they've got involved with other people's stories. If that works for them and that's what draws their audience, no problem with that. Good for you. Glad that's working. I'm glad that you're monetized. I'm glad you could monetize that drama. What my warning is that that's not evergreen material. And when I say that's not evergreen material, what I mean is sooner or later that's going to dry up. That's going to dry up. And you're going to need, if you want to continue to monetize, you're going to need to learn how to take a step back. You're going to need to learn how to, set down a little bit and come up with evergreen material, evergreen content. And when I mean evergreen, that doesn't mean that every topic you have to talk about on every episode you do. All of that is, hey, Georgie, glad to see you here. It doesn't mean it has to be, translate over to every single, generation to come. But branch out. There are people out there that are so talented, and I love it. Skipper is a great example of somebody who's very talented. He's very good at what he does. He's very good at what he talks about. I love to see what he does when he deals with helping veterans get signed up for veteran affairs benefits. I'm just that, there again, and Skipper knows this because I tell him this constantly. I don't do what the Hale stuff because that's just one. Jeremy Hales doesn't need TC's opinion, right? Jeremy Hales does not. He doesn't need my support. He doesn't need my help. Jeremy Hales has a whole hell of a lot more money than I do. He's got a bigger audience than I do, and nobody cares what I think about Jeremy Hales and what the Hales and what they've got going on. They don't care. I told Skipper, like when I come on, when we do shows together for Veteran Nation Live, I don't want to talk about what the Hales. I don't want to talk about any of the stuff surrounding what Hales. Skipper is phenomenal at what he does with what the Hales. And how he monetizes his haters. That's not me. That's not me. And I try not to do I don't want to say this. I try not to do stuff that's over for me, and this is not a judgment on anybody else. I can have a tendency where I would want to over sensationalize things that I'm covering. I said it in the name three times. Now it's gonna, now everybody's gonna show up. It's like Candyman. wouldn't want to say Candyman 3 times in a row, because if you say Candyman, jeez, I did it. Or Bloody Mary, right? Yeah, I love having you here, Skipper. I was just saying wonderful things about you and talking about how you're very good at monetizing your haters. I don't know how. You know. I just, for me, I just, it doesn't. It's not who I am, and I don't have the patience that, you know, Georgie and you have for dealing with the haters. I am not as nice as you guys are, not as patient as you guys are. So consider, you know, that there again, that's not who I am. So, but once again, for those channels out there who have made their bread and butter and not present company excluded, for those people who are out there who have made all of the, like, their entire brand is nothing but drama from other people that they talk about, they will dry up sooner or later, and they will that leaf will blow away in a stiff breeze, and we can't all be Skipper, we can't all be Georgie, we can't all be me. I bring a different perspective to things that other people don't. So anyway, enough of that. Thanks for being here. Join the channel if you haven't joined the channel as a member yet. Head over to the other channels and become members. Oh wait, I gotta do the Skipper. There you go. But I want to talk about Trump, and I want to talk about free speech, and some of you are going to get really mad at me right now. And I'm okay with that. I'll take the pushback, but we're losing our republic, folks. We've been losing it. Well, here, I'll say this. We lost our republic finally, in the sense of it's been in its death throes and not coming back since since Lincoln. Lincoln killed the United States Republic. Lincoln created in the imperial presidency, he created the empire of the United States. He created the executive rule, and if you guys don't that have followed, if there's a president that you don't like in your lifetime, if you don't like a president, I don't care if it's Biden, I don't care if it's Bush, I don't care if it's Trump, I don't care if it's Reagan, I don't care if it's Carter or Nixon, I don't care if it's Woodrow Wilson or Calvin Coolidge, I don't care who it is. If you don't like something that they're doing, all of that was paved, laid down, the way was created, the road was blazoned, cut out of the wilderness by Abraham Lincoln. End of story. Abraham, I tell people all the time, Abraham Lincoln did not free a single slave. He didn't. And one, that's factual. He didn't free a single slave. But he did enslave the entire republic. We are all enslaved to the state. We don't have a government anymore. The government was meant to be us, a government of the people, by the people, for the people, under the umbrella of the authority of the Constitution, which is nothing more than an expression of Lockean philosophy, Rutherfordian philosophy, and we've talked about all this ad nauseum in the past. And we've lost all of that. We have become a state as a whole. It's why you won't see me say the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't pledge allegiance to the flag of one nation under God. We're not one nation. We are a republic. And I will not pledge allegiance to a piece of cloth of one nation. We are many individual sovereign states, the several states, gathered into the republic. And what we're watching now with Donald Trump, as these things play out, is a loss of what was left of our republic. I'll give you an example. It's just a minor one, really, because people aren't focusing on it because of all this other talk that seems to be happening. But Donald Trump issued an executive order stating that he was going to cut funding. You can disagree with me on Lincoln. We'll hash it out sometime. But you got to do some reading first. But Trump issues an executive order bragging about, first, cutting funding to any university that allows illegal protests. And everybody applauds. I applaud the cutting of funding to universities. I think that my taxpayer dollars, my wage slave dollars, should not be forcibly stripped from me and then given to colleges and universities by the federal state at all. So I applaud that. The problem is that he's linking it to illegal protests, but he never gives a definition of an illegal protest. And everybody is, well, we all know what an illegal protest is. And I said, what an illegal protest is? Well, if you're vandalizing property, that's not a protest. That's a crime because you are victimizing someone else. Well, if you assault people, that's not a protest. That's a crime because you are victimizing someone else. Well, if you're blocking people's access to their private property, or if you're blocking access to a building and forcibly keeping people, that's not a protest, that's a crime. So define an illegal protest. Because you can a protest and justify the phrase illegal protest if you are going to claim to be a constitutional originalist and a constitutional purist, because the First Amendment gives us a right, doesn't give us, excuse me, let me rephrase that. The First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States Republic states that we are free, and it's the way it's written and understood. We are free to assemble with any person, that group of people, whether it be in twos or threes or fours or larger. We are free to assemble with whoever we choose, for whatever reason we choose, for a redress of grievances, to write what we want to write, to say the things that we want to say about our servants, our public servants, elected servants. Oh, hey, thank you, Dwayne. Thank you very much for that $10 super chat. I haven't had a super chat in a really long time, so I really appreciate that. So we have, I would dare say, not only do we have that foundational indwelt natural right to speak our minds and seek a redress of grievances, what we have is a duty to assemble and to protest against an out-of-hand government. But here's what we know: Trump and telling us that we don't have, that he wants all illegal protests shut down, especially on universities, campuses. He's talking about criticizing Israel. Donald Trump is telling people, I don't want any more people shutting down campuses, if that's what's actually happening. If that actually happened, there wasn't a rash of campuses being shut down. In fact, I was listening to Part of the Problem, and Dave Smith, who happens to be a Jewish individual, was talking to a Jewish university student, and he said, at any point did you ever feel threatened and afraid? And he goes, that was inconvenient, but nobody threatened me. He was a little pissed off that I had to do some classes remotely because the university decided to shut the campus down and do everything remotely because of the protests. But he said nobody threatened us. He said we had to go. We went around the building and went in a back door instead of the front door. Like, folks, the whole point of a protest is to make people uncomfortable. So what Donald Trump is doing is and I voted for him because I felt like I had no other options. What Donald Trump is doing is what he started to do in his first administration, which was a declaration of we're going to make anti-Semitism illegal. And folks, you can't make anti-Semitism illegal. It's not illegal to not like somebody for their ethnicity. And if you're going to draw the line and saying, oh, we're going to criminalize anti-Semitic speech, and we'll talk about this in a second. If you're going to criminalize anti-Semitic speech, then you have to criminalize any speech that seems hateful about any group of people. But the problem is Donald Trump is bought and paid for. Thank you, Skipper. Donald Trump is bought and paid for by AIPAC. Donald Trump is bought and paid for by geopolitical Zionist Israel. GPZI, geopolitical Zionist Israel. That's the reality. That's the fact. That's the fact of the matter. Miriam Adelson gave over $100 million to Donald Trump's campaign in 2024. $100 million. She's an avowed Zionist. Zionism is not Judaism. Zionism is not being Jewish, folks. Please understand that. Thank you, Dwayne. Good Lord. You guys are awesome. The foundational reality is that Trump is a Zionist, and the majority of his cabinet are Zionist, and Israel has, when I say too much of a say, they should have no say in anything that has to do with the political structure of the United States. So when Trump steps in and he says, we're shutting, I want illegal protests stopped, and then he threatens, and if you take part in an illegal protest, you will either be imprisoned or you will be arrested, detained, and deported. Now, if you're here illegally, deport your ass. Get out. Get out of the country if you're here illegally. But in the case that, and I cannot remember the individual's name, in the case of the individual who was just arrested late last week, he's here on a green card. He's married to an American woman. They're having a child that will be an American child. He was arrested by ICE, sent off to an undisclosed location. Why? He's never been charged with a crime. There's no evidence. There's no witnesses that he's ever committed an act of violence. But because he went out and he spoke out against Israel's bombing of civilian populations in Gaza. Hey, Paul. They arrested him and they're deporting him even though he's here on a green card. He's gone through all of the hoops that he can go through. I want that to sink in, folks. Please understand this. If you're here illegally, I want you to be tracked down and I want you to be removed from this country. Once it's proven that you were here illegally. Once it's proven. That's what I want. But I don't want you to be arrested, absent of a crime, and deported because you spoke out against the unlawful, inhumane, near genocidal level acts created or conducted or perpetrated by geopolitical Zionist Israel military that we're paying for as wage slaves, folks. You're paying for this. We fund Israel's military. We supply Israel's military. And Donald Trump will not have anyone critique Israel. And if you do critique Israel, they've defined that as being anti-Semitic, and it's not anti-Semitic. Being anti-Zionism is not being anti-Semitic. Being anti-Zionist means you hate Zionism, and I hate Zionism. I have many Jewish friends, people that I respect and love dearly. And I hate Zionism because Zionism is not representative of Judaism. And that's what Donald Trump is doing. He's picking and choosing what justifies his position on what makes for an illegal protest. End of story. You could tell me I'm wrong, but I'm not. It is not anti-Semitic to be anti-Zionism. It is the most loving thing in the world if you can look at your Jewish neighbors and friends and say, I oppose Zionism. Because a lot of your Jewish neighbors and friends oppose Zionism as well. They absolutely do. That is an erosion that, well, actually has gone beyond an erosion level, an erosion level event. It is an erosion to the nth degree of the natural right of you to speak out against what your government, what the state is doing. When I decry the actions of Israel, I'm decrying the actions of the United States State Department, the United States government. I'm decrying their actions by funding what Israel would have to learn to get along with her neighbors. Israel would have to learn to not threaten to fight everybody. Right now, as we speak, Israel is protected in the United States, protected by the United States. Israel is still bombing in Syria. They're bombing in Syria. Israel helped orchestrate the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad with the help of the United States State Department. The people that they helped to overthrow Assad are ISIS. It is ISIS. It is the what we used to call Al-Qaeda. We funded this. We, the people of the United States, the wage slaves, we funded the overthrow of Syria by propping up, equipping, and arming ISIS and sending them in and telling them we would support them taking over Syria. And guess what else is happening? We're sending more troops in. We're sending troops into Syria. Everything that most of you hate about what's happening between Ukraine and Russia, which we orchestrated, we the United States, we orchestrated what's happening between Ukraine and Russia. We also orchestrated everything that's happening in the Middle East right now. Israel is a terrorist state. And I don't support Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization. But Israel is a terrorist state. And their military is allowed to do whatever they do. We have proof that they literally sexually assaulted prisoners. And Americans are applauding that. That's how sick and disgusting our support of Zionism is. Oh, thanks, Georgie. I despise Hamas, but I also despise Zionism, and I despise geopolitical Zionist Israel. No, there's nothing we can. I'm not calling for an end of Israel. I'm calling for Israel to make peace on their own. And Skipper, you had put in there that they have peace with Jordan and Egypt. They have peace with Jordan and Egypt, but they have peace with Jordan and Egypt because the United States pays Jordan and Egypt to be at peace with them. Billions of dollars a year are paid out by we the wage slaves. We the wage slaves give Israel, or not Israel, but Israel's neighbors that they have peace with, we give them billions of dollars a year. Billions of dollars a year. To just put up with Israel's provocations. And we're not allowed to critique that. And if you happen to be here legally and you critique Israel for what they're doing, they want to deport you or arrest you or charge you. They want to charge you. They want to take Americans. If they can't deport you, they want to throw you in prison for critiquing Israel because that's anti-Semitic, and we're trying to make it illegal to be anti-Semitic in the United States. That's foundationally the end of our republic. Foundationally the end of our republic, if that succeeds. You cannot get around that, folks. There's no way around that. And I want to touch on the reality that the most principled and ethical man in the United States Congress right now is Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie is the most principled, most ethical, most constitutionally literate, the most constitutionally aligned person holding office at the federal level right now. He is the next generation's Ron Paul. Absolutely. The next generations. Don't ignore the tiny. Yeah, thanks a lot, Georgie. I suppose I have to allow that because you sent a super chat too. Thomas Massie stated the truth about the continuing resolution. The continuing resolution is an absolute rejection of everything that Doge has discovered by telling people, like, here's all this fraud, waste, and abuse, and we're going to reject the fraud, waste, and abuse, but we're going to go ahead and continue to fund all the fraud, waste, and abuse because we're obligated to. So a continuing resolution is basically nothing more than an omnibus bill. And omnibus bills are unconstitutional. They're patently, demonstrably unconstitutional. And I have been watching supposed small government, anti-fraud, waste, and abuse people all line up behind Donald Trump and attack Thomas Massie and everybody else who defends Thomas Massie and scream and holler as if Thomas Massie is the worst person in the world because he said, I'm not supporting another continuing resolution. Donald Trump wants to primary Thomas Massie for saying no to a CR, but he doesn't want to primary Lindsey Graham? Are you kidding me, Donald Trump? You're going to attack Thomas Massie because he doesn't do what you say? Get bent. Get bent. See, folks, we will exist as a republic. We're not a nation. We're not a nation. Don't get it twisted. We're not a nation. We're a republic. We cannot exist as a republic if we're not allowed to critique people we support. I voted for Donald Trump. I will never support another person aligned with Donald Trump ever again. I don't care if J.D. Vance runs for president. I will not support him because he's hooked himself up. He's tied himself onto the Trump wagon, or on the Trump team. Well, I don't. Yeah, I say it a lot too, but I'm sure you say it more because you do a lot more shows than I do. I will never support another Trump candidate again. If I find out that you have an endorsement for Donald Trump or you've hitched your wagon to Donald Trump's horses, we're done. Not because I don't like you, because I'm sure you're gonna have great views, great perspectives. Thank you guys all so much for the super chats. But I have watched people lose all sense of ethics and proportionality and principle over Donald Trump. You can't critique him. Because if you critique him, then people will say, yeah, but what about? I hate whataboutism. Well, you critique Donald Trump for this, but I never heard you critique such. Well, because you probably weren't listening to me. Somebody had said to me just this morning, actually, I recognize you, but I don't know that I've ever known you. And my response to that is I'm the same person I was when most of you first met me. The problem is now I'm critiquing the people that you love. See, I'm consistent. Folks, we have a very, very narrow window left to us where we have a fighting chance, philosophically, a fighting chance to reclaim what's left of our Constitution, reclaim what's left of our republic, and restore it. But every day that goes by that Donald Trump is philosophically allowed to tell people to not support Thomas Massie because Thomas Massie dares to tell him, no, I'm not supporting that. Every day that we're told that we're not allowed to take part in illegal protests without a definition of what an illegal protest is, which we all know what it is, it's critique of geopolitical Zionist Israel. Every day that goes by unchallenged, every day that somebody blindly supports Donald Trump just because Donald Trump said something and therefore it must be right, it must be accurate. Trust the plan. He's playing 5D chess. Really? Is he playing 5D chess with the Epstein files? And now we know we're never going to get him because national security of the United States is at risk if we put all of this out. I want you to let that sink in, folks. We can't show you what's in these files. Oh, no, they haven't. They've already said they're not going to release everything because it's going to risk national security. The influencers that were given those files last week or 2 weeks ago now or whatever it was, they got the same stuff that was already available. We're never going to get it all. Just like we're never going to know the full story on so much of this stuff because it's in all of their best interest to tamp it down. We have a narrow window to get it back, folks. Narrow. And you're not going to find it in the GOP. Voting Republican is not going to get you anything but more leftism because the Republicans from their inception have been a progressive leftist party. Lincoln was a progressive leftist. Not only was Lincoln a progressive leftist, but he was applauded by Karl Marx. Karl Marx wrote him letters applauding him for his actions. The Republican Party has always been a progressive left party. It's just the Democrats went from being the conservative party to being a progressive left party too. And it's high time for us to realize that where it matters is at the local level. And we have to start taking back our local level and training people up at the local level to go up to the state level and the federal level and be Thomas Massie. We need 10,000 Thomas Massies across the United States. And we need no Donald Trumps. We need no J.D. Vances. And they've done some things that I agree with. Shutting down Zelensky was great. But guess what? Now we're going to start sending them aid again. We're going to be this is going to be the most peaceful of all peaceful countries. More peace. We're going to have more peace with Donald Trump. He's going to be the president of peace, the most beautiful peace, the biggest peace there ever was, the hugest peace ever. Except now we're deploying Minnesota National Guard troops to Syria in the next month and a half. We're going to release all the files unredacted. You're going to know it all, except we're not going to release all the files unredacted, and you're not going to know it all because we got to do that to protect you from us. I mean, from foreign threats that we've created. I don't care how much you may disagree with what I'm saying. If you are not disturbed by the idea that you could be arrested and imprisoned by this current administration for taking part in an illegal protest when you don't know what the definition of an illegal protest is, then you already know the answer to what an illegal protest is. It's anything that they say. And now, on top of it, Thomas Massie's the enemy of all the people that we're being told we should hate. We're being told we should hate Thomas Massie. I'm going to give you a little bit of an inside scoop on Thomas Massie. In 2020, when Donald Trump issued the executive order that shut this country down and allowed governors like Governor Tim Walz and J.D. Pritzker and Gretchen Whitmer and Gavin Newsom and Cuomo and others, that gave them the power and the authority to shut their states down and then ultimately begin to ruin the economy by telling you whether or not your job was essential or not essential, whether or not you could leave your house or have people over. All of that stuff was made possible by Donald Trump. Donald Trump kept Anthony Fauci on board through all of that and more. All of that led to the inception of Donald Trump and the CARES Act. You know those COVID checks that you got? That came from the CARES Act. And the CARES Act came because Donald Trump put pressure on the House and the Senate, or on the House in particular, to print money, billions of dollars of money, so he could hand out checks to people, because he created the nature of the environment that caused people to need the money, which then led to the goddamn recession and the inflationary crisis that we've been dealing with since Biden took office. Was all created, that environment was all created by Donald Trump. And Thomas Massie in 2020 said, I will not support the CARES Act because it's going to create recession, it's going to create inflation, it is going to cause economic problems and disaster. And it did exactly what he said it was going to do. And he was right. And Donald Trump attacked him then. See, Donald Trump is an egomaniacal, tyrannical little shithead who cannot stand being challenged, and when you challenge him, that makes you his enemy. because he's surrounded by sycophants who do nothing but whisper in his ear about how wonderful he is and about how good he is, and they stroke his ego, and probably a lot more than his ego, and tell him how wonderful he is and how good he is and how it's the hugest, bestest presidency ever. And one man has the temerity to stand up and point out that the emperor has no clothes. Instead of respecting him for being a man of principle and ethics, the biggest grandstander in the history of the modern presidency in the United States, Donald Trump, accuses Thomas Massie of being nothing more than a grandstander. No, folks, we don't have a free country anymore. And Obama and Biden and Harris were some of the most oppressive people there were. And Donald Trump is just continuing that tradition. So now's your chance. Do something with the time that we have left, or just admit that you don't care about this republic, and as long as you get a check, and as long as the people that you like are the ones suffering under oppression, you're okay with it. But I'm not. I don't like it when my enemies are oppressed. My philosophical enemies are oppressed. I don't. I swore an oath to protect the people I don't like from being oppressed. Not just the people I like, but all people. I swore that oath on multiple occasions. And even though I'm a nobody, and even though I didn't do anything to really serve this country, that oath meant something to me. It means a whole hell of a lot more to me than it will ever mean to Donald Trump. He's just a two-timing narcissist. And all he cares about is how Donald Trump looks on the world stage. He's not draining anything but basically our pocketbooks. Because as Thomas Massie pointed out, not only are we losing freedoms under Donald Trump, this continuing resolution that he insists he needs to keep the government funded until September is going to explode our debt. We're in trouble. And a lot more people who support Donald Trump need to wake up to how bad he is. Better than Harris. But that's like saying skin cancer, melanoma, is better than stage 4 colon cancer. It's still cancer, and guess what? It can still kill you. It's just you don't care about the melanoma as much because it feels better when the doctor can cut it off. Sooner or later, if it doesn't get treated, it will kill you. Be looking out for stuff this next week, folks. My episode with Pam will be out on Monday night. Got Jeremy coming on for the season premiere of Libertarian Lowdown. That's going to be a great conversation about the Free State Project in New Hampshire, and I look forward to having you guys sit down and watch all of that. So thanks for all the gifts. If you haven't had a chance to join the channel yet, please do. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your comments. And I look forward to hearing from everybody in days and weeks to come. Hope you're all doing well. Till next time, fight for your freedom, it is yours. Fight for your liberty, it belongs to you. And Sic Semper Tyrannis.